Welcome to Cos Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Hi everyone, Jason Hunt here, inviting you to join us every Saturday morning for news. The week's headlines in science fiction, fantasy, horror, comic books, video games, plus Comic-Con updates and the weather, and the occasional interview along the way. We call it Good Morning Multiverse. We hope you join us every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, right here on Sci-Fi for Me TV.
(1947). Alan Miller, a homicide detective, a real ace in his field, has nightmares about strange beings. He's called in to investigate the murder of traffic detective Patrick Perkins, a most unusual slaying. The sight is not for the faint, but what is most curious is that Perkins' heart has been removed. The only lead is a beautiful silver starlight, the type of vehicle you'd never take your eye off of. The case runs cold, but Detective Miller is met by a strange being from his nightmares. The alien gives him the rub. He informs Alan that a, quote, shapeshifter, unquote, killed the young traffic detective. The kicker? This monster is hiding within Central Police Station alongside his fellow officers. The detective pays no mind to his encounter, but the same visitor is seen chatting up the captain. Alan barges into the captain's office and meets a young man, Ellis Tate, a new transfer from the Big Apple, a man who's been assigned to be Alan's new partner in the Perkins case. This story is penned by Mr. Tony James, a writer of sorts, a lover of old noir and science fiction. He's accompanied by 3 able-bodied artists, aces in their own field, much like our detective. And hot damn, take a gander at those rewards. Commemorate your purchase with these fine items. Don't be a fuddy-duddy. Back Star Noir today. It's the only way to defeat the communists.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tony James.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
Glad to do it, Tony. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well. Winter just kicked in over here on the East Coast, so trying to stay warm.
Yeah, it's moving in a little early here in Northwest Arkansas as well, which means that the mornings are 60 degrees. Not, we don't get snow here. We get ice, and we get it as thicker than a Chicago pie. So,
wow, that's scary.
It's you just you don't try to drive through it because you can't. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter how many wheel drives you have or how many tires you have on the ground. it's just a skating rink. You don't do it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I do want to say up front that this show with you is brought to us by the NSC Roadshow. So I do want to tell people that Inked Marketing and NSC Live TV are proud to present the NSC Roadshow podcast tour. As a creator, come be treated like a rock star as we take you on tour with podcasters, much like Mr. James here, expanding your audience base with each show. So if you've got a crowdfunding project you'd like to tell thousands about, or you're a podcaster who would like more creators on your show, come get on the tour and visit nscroadshow.com. Now, with that commercial interruption out of the way early, let's talk about comic books. Why in the world are you making comic books, Tony?
I don't know. It's the only medium that'll have me. At the, you try your hand at a few different mediums, and comics is the one that's working.
Well, yeah. I mean, were you a comic book collector as a kid, or?
Actually, I was not, but my parents got me an omnibus of the Death and Return of Superman, and that was my first deep dive into comics, and I really loved that big story feel that story had. I loved all the different iterations of Superman, so that really hooked me into comics for sure.
I can always tell the age of people on the show when they tell about what their first dive into comics was, and I'm like, yeah, you were diving into Superman. I was already married with a kid. It feels like just yesterday he was dead. Of course, I think it was just yesterday he was dead again.
Yeah,
he dies a lot now.
Yes, yeah, it was a great story though.
But so you had to write,
yeah,
and comics was how did you find writing a comics format, a comic script format?
I mean, in the experience of how did I come to it?
I mean, when you decided to write a comic, is this well, first of all, let me ask, is this the first comic you've ever written?
No, it is not.
Okay.
This is the second one I've done.
Okay.
I did.
So when you sat down to write your first one, though, I mean, did you know the mechanics that you were going to follow? Because there's several different ways of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some core storytelling things that translate into different mediums. But this one, comics, I had to learn about why page turns happen, why there are splash pages, why panels would have more panels, why they would have fewer ones. Yeah, so it was like a learning curve to understand the language of comics and try to tell a comic book story, not just something that was a screenplay that you then turned into a comic book.
And then, the artist plays such an important part, because sometimes it's not how many panels, but also the shape of the panels that adds a certain dynamic to the storytelling and the pacing. How did you go about finding the artist that worked for you?
Well, when I wanted to start putting this book out, I reached out to an artist on a Facebook group called Connecting Writers with Artists, I believe it's called. And this artist, Pablo Debanis, he is from Argentina. He reached out to me. I sent him the script of the first book. He thought the narrative was incredible. And he started right away, just started doing concept art. And I was just blown away by his vision. When you're writing in the graphic medium, you're really writing for the artist. So there's this kind of sacrificing a little bit of that crystallized vision that you might have in your head. But working with Pablo, we are just constantly on the same wavelength. I pitch him an alien encounter, and he has the same vibe and the same kind of the same kind of fearful encounter that I actually was imagining on the page. And the same thing happens with the crime scenes. I just say that there should be a body here, but he also makes it a bustling crime scene where there are just people in the background. There's just so much life in every panel. So he's been just really easy to work with.
That's good. That's because it's such a collaborative effort. And, sometimes they work like this with a writer and artist, and sometimes they work like this. And
yeah. There's absolute synergy with Star Noir, even with the colorist and letter as well.
So what led to this particular kind of story? Were you a big UFO buff?
Actually, it's a combination of two really strong passions. I really love the 1940s era. I love those noir films. It's not just the cars and the outfits, but I love the rapid fire dialogue that you have in like The Big Sleep, or Double Indemnity. And then on the flip side, yes, I'm very much into Aliens. One of the big influential shows for me growing up was the X-Files, and I really loved how they took those real world alien abduction stories and wove it into their own original narrative. And then what it gave you was this like grounded view of aliens, where it kind of was like the fear of the unknown. It was less fantastical, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do absolutely get that, and I love the same aesthetics. I mean, I when I grew up, I was like heavily into the Betty and Barney Hill story. Of course, the
Yeah,
World Weekly News. I was cutting every alien encounter out of that because that J. Allen Hynek, he was onto something. Um,
yeah.
had a scrapbook of it, but I have yet to see anything in the sky that I didn't know was a plane or a satellite. I'm still waiting for my first close encounter of any
Yeah,
level.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, but you mentioned the dialogue, and I can uh, completely agree with that. In fact, I was just on a panel at Archon in Collinsville, Illinois, yesterday,
Mhm.
um, and it was about old time radio, and we were talking about the 1940s detective thrillers and the noirs, and just how much more clever the dialogue was, and how much snappier it was compared to a lot of the fare you get on television dramas these days.
Yeah,
Um, Very clever. It was very clever stuff.
yeah, yeah. The dialogue it's almost like a really fast tennis match. It's everyone's just trying to throw back ideas back and forth, back and forth. And when I was like writing the script, each line, each piece of dialogue is just one line to keep every sentence short, so that when you're reading it, it has that fairly fast kinetic flow that you see in those old noir movies.
So if I'm reading this, should I read this in the voice of like a Philip Marlowe or in the voice of a Jack Webb? Because
Uh, I mean, I tried to make him as unique as possible, but if you had to choose one, I would probably go more Philip Marlowe.
okay, good, because nobody. Well, it worked for Jack. That dead monotone, deadpan monotone sound that he had. Uh, so you have Kickstarter going here. I'm gonna have to take that. I'm gonna have to take the drive-in down, folks. We can't show the Kickstarter and the drive-in at the same time. I have too many things to scroll past. There we go. Um, 9 days to go. Let's just say 2,500 to get there. That last 25%. Uh, Nervous, concerned.
Um, no, not particularly. I mean, a little nervous, but I mean, we've had such strong momentum throughout this campaign that it's like, well, if that continues, we should be okay.
Yeah.
The reaction to the art and the story, it's been so strong. It's nothing like I've ever seen before in my previous work. I mean, when I first started showing people the art and the story, they were like 3 steps ahead trying to cast the movie and tell me it's going to be on AMC, this is going to be an HBO, and you're like, "Whoa, hey, slow down. Like let's make this a great comic book first." But there's so much enthusiasm surrounding this book that
I have to agree with Pops. Your stash is epic, by the way.
yes,
Um,
thanks Pops. Yes.
I wish I could do that, but mine just hangs down in my mouth, and I
Yeah,
end up cutting it.
work pretty hard on it.
Um, Regarding the art, I mean, just the thumbnail for the video here. The two things that stand out to me is that your heroes, it gets beat up quite a bit, which is right in line with a noir era PI. They 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 took punches. They got clipped chins and black eyes like that. But the other thing that I really truly love is that the alien is in a fedora and suit. Uh, that's
Yeah.
it's like, this is a disguise. No one's gonna know I'm the alien.
Yeah, I thought it was a good way to in just one image just tell you everything you need to know about the story. And I just love that the artist's interpretation of it. I pitched it to him, and yeah, with he it was the cover is based on old 1940s movie posters, so a really good interpretation of this with the alien.
Yeah. Now, when you look at the way they're dressed as characters, your detective characters, he's got the tie, the top button's buttoned up. It's all business. The alien's got no tie, buttons open. That jacket is definitely not formal attire or three-piece business. That is definitely a casual Frank Sinatra lounge around and smoke something jacket.
Yeah, and it reflects their personalities. Our main character, Alan, who was on the right, he's very no nonsense, callous, not afraid to beat up a suspect to get information. And then you have Ellis, who is the alien. He is much more benevolent. He's always asking, is there a better way to do something that doesn't involve violence? He doesn't like to use a gun, which gets him into a lot of trouble. So they have a really nice back and forth on what's the best way to go about detective work.
I think I might know the answer to this, but I'll ask anyway. How did you come to the name for your alien, the English American name?
Oh, Ellis. Just trying to find something with initials ET. So his name is Ellis Tate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought perhaps it was a play on Ellis Island, where immigration all happens.
No, I was trying to find initials for ET. So because he refers to himself when he's introduced as ET for short. So it's like Ellis Tate, ET. It's a little in joke between those guys.
It works though. I like it. So a lot of gore right there, right up front. Yeah. Let's just say it's there. Is this a mature audiences kind of book, or is this just more of a PG-13 heavy on the damage kind of book?
Probably more PG-13 heavy on the damage. I mean, the gore is there to set the stakes and the tone. I'm not trying to be gratuitous just to be gratuitous. This is a violent murder caused by an alien, and the two detectives, they're trying to figure out who is killing these cops in Central Station. And you get more murders like this, and they're trying to figure out what's happening to these cops, and in each murder the heart is being removed, and there's a science fiction significance as to why that's happening.
Okay. Mike Walters is in the chat. Drop by to share the stream. Thank you for that, Mike. Do appreciate it. And with everybody else would share it out. I never asked that myself. I've got enough viewers, thanks. Well, no, I don't, but that's beside the point. But share it so that more people can see Tony's work right now, so we can get some backers on this project, get this thing moving along so he doesn't have to be chewing his nails off the last 2 days of the campaign. Now, you said that this is an alien that's killing these police officers.
Yeah.
Is this a world in which the presence of aliens is known at least to some small parties, or is this a new thing?
No, it's completely unknown to this world. They're hidden among us. There are people like lounge singers that you meet that you find out that they're aliens. But yeah, it's really grounded in this noir setting. That when the aliens come in, it's horrifying yet intriguing for these characters.
So this would be a pre-Roswell world.
This is actually right after the Roswell thing. It's there's a radio balloon that actually mentions the Roswell crash.
Oh, okay. Is the story tied in? I mean, is
Ellis that's sort of like a backdrop thing to just play into the theme of the aliens that are in this.
Okay, lets us know.
Here. Yes. But they're Star Noir is just the title. It really is a total marriage of these two ideas of noir and science fiction. So even though it's got a firm foot in the noir setting, the sci-fi stuff definitely is there. Aliens are definitely in this, and there are quite a few interesting encounters. And even a lot of the twists they're based on noir tropes and have a sci-fi twist that kind of flips it on its ear. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I like how it sounds like Star Wars too. It's just that same. It rhymes, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of this. I've I've got, I published stories before, and I have a short story sitting around that I never really got to send anywhere. That was pretty much the same. It wasn't the detective noir, but it was more the mobster noir kind of thriller thing, where aliens came in through Ellis Island instead of just landing, and they became citizens. And of course, anytime any ethnicity comes into America, they bring the families with them. So the Italians and the Benduvians were kind of at it every once in a while. It was fun getting into the language of that. Like you talked about, I think it opened with something like, so I'm sitting in Giordano's having ravioli with Jimmy the Fist when in walk these three Benduvians. Fun stuff. I love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, Alan, I'm trying to get Alan and Ellis correctly placed to the right face. So Alan is he has a close encounter with Ellis.
Yeah. Yes, this panel right here is the first meeting that Alan has with Ellis, in which Ellis tells him telepathically that a shapeshifter who is among the officers in Central Station is the person that killed the traffic detective that you see on the bridge with his heart missing.
So what's Ellis's? Well, I'm going to ask story questions now, but so why does Ellis care?
Well, without spoiling, because he's got his own ulterior motives, but there is just there's a reason why people like Alan are used to help find aliens who are being essential troublemakers on Earth, and getting a little too involved. That he kind of needs a human counterpart to figure it out.
Okay. And it doesn't seem like Alan's too receptive of it. And so he sees the same alien here in the script says, he goes to work the next day and there's the alien talking with the captain.
Yes.
But when he opens the door.
Yeah. For a story reason, Alan can see Ellis's gray alien form, and everyone else sees somebody who looks more like a Tom Holland type of character.
So
just like a young, idealist kid.
So is he doing this with like some sort of telepathy or a device, or is it not even?
Yeah, it's a mental projection.
Okay. Why didn't he project that way to Alan?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I mean, I guess it would be even harder to convince Alan, said, hey, there's a shapeshifter alien killing your cops, if it's just some scrawny little kid.
But
I guess his appearance lends some gravitas.
Yeah. But Alan has some backstory with being abducted by aliens that ties into the relationship, why they're meeting in the first place. Like, is it the first time they've ever met, or is this just the only time that Alan remembers that they've met?
I tracked you by your anal probe. So, but that would make this much more. That makes this much more interesting, just to get all the words in the right order there, because now he's going to. I would expect to have some sort of repressed memory starting to come forth, and really make this more traumatic for Alan than just that's an alien. Holy crap! To have all that stuff come tumbling forward in his head. Is this a ongoing, a mini, or what are your longer term plans?
This is a 6-issue murder mystery where each book is about 40 pages long. This is essentially Act 1. And it's one of these tight-knit narratives that I've been working on for quite some time. It's not like there is one issue and then we have an outline for where we want to go. No, this is the whole book is written. And we have broken it up into these 6 issues. And this is just Act 1. It sets up the murder mystery. It gets these two detectives partnered up, and it sets them on their journey to go around Los Angeles trying to figure out who this shapeshifter in their precinct is.
You said that the whole book, that is the whole 6-issue arc, is written. How much is drawn?
The quarter of the first book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure if we can say, hey, this is going to be like an every 3 month kind of deal here,
Yeah.
or some sort of release schedule. With it not being fully drawn, I'm just going to say it's going to be like, maybe if we're lucky, once every 6 months, once every 8 months.
Probably 6 months. I honestly, we actually, the pages that we've been working on, we've actually worked on, moved through those pretty quickly. So I would actually be comfortable with a 6 month.
It's that's part of the challenge, I guess, with crowdfunded books, is coming up with a schedule for an ongoing,
Yeah.
even a mini series, to where you keep people's interest in between the issues going.
Yeah.
You don't want to have that, as Mike Tierney on the LCS guys calls it, the expiration of expectations,
Right.
when it goes on too long.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. Yeah, I very much would like to get everybody to have this read this book, because there is a lot of story here. I mean, even in the first issue, there's a lot going on in this first book. And yeah, it's a big murder mystery that keeps turning. Just when you think you know who the killer is, I flip it on you. Yeah, and it's just like that throughout the entire story.
That's the best kind of mystery. How do you write mysteries? Because the challenge with mysteries is you've got to have somebody who's so smart that they don't get caught, but not so smart that the hero can't catch them. And then you have to be as smart as the hero and hope that the rest of the world is as dumb as the rest of your public in your book.
Yeah. Well, you tend to just write them backwards. There was, when I did like the first draft, there was a scene right at the end that I thought would make for a really good twist, and I realized I had set up kind of an innocuous situation that the reader, if you've read a lot of if you've read a lot of noir, you would have assumptions about where this story is going, and because of those assumptions, the twist works really well. So it's plausible deniability.
All right. Looking past the lettered pages we got here, you got some add-ons, some bonus materials here. Swag, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, we took a couple of really nice panels, kind of blew them up to some 4x6 postcards that look really cool. We've also decided to start making baseball cards, nice. And we have the badge number on the front, and character stats on the back, and even which sidearm they used, because each detective has a different weapon that they like to use. As I mentioned before, Ellis doesn't like to use a gun, so his card does not have a gun on that card. So that's pretty cool. And then our colorist, he took the cover image and he put this kind of crease design on it that made it look really weathered and vintage. It looks like you could fold it up, but it's not folded. But that's just the look that he went with it, which I think looks really awesome.
So it's not folded, but it's 11 by 17. So how are you going to ship it?
In a roll-up tube, carefully.
Okay, because that's one of the things that's how we make our money. Really, is we're through the fulfillment and shipping. And I was like, we fold some, we roll some, but and some of them we mail flats. All depends on what people want.
Yeah, I would roll these.
Well, then it's going to be on slick paper then, not a heavy board.
Right. Yep.
Right, and then all right, the rest of it's the team. We can talk about the team. You talked about how you found your team, but can you tell us some more about their background, where they have worked before, if any of them?
Yeah, Pablo Debonis, the artist, he's from Argentina. He has done some work for Scout Comics. North Bend was a book that he drew. Yeah, he's great. Vinicius Townsend, he is from Brazil. He has done some coloring work for IDW for G.I. Joe. And then Marco is a very prolific letterer in Italy. He was working on very more cartoony stuff, but working on this, I really liked the way that he thought outside the box when it came to lettering. So I study every aspect of making comics, just to understand the language.
Right.
And when he would make a lettering choice, I would kind of go, oh, this doesn't sync up with the rules of lettering, and he would have a very good reason for breaking that rule. So he has a very good understanding for the rules, and he knows when to break them. And I really like his choices.
Yeah, trust the professional if you've hired one.
Yes.
But,
Yeah.
And the letterer, I always say it's a thankless job, because if you do your job right, nobody even notices that you did anything, and it's only when you screw up that they're like, "Who lettered this thing?"
No, but he's been very good. People have really liked the look of the book. They would have pointed out the lettering, I'm sure, but he's been great.
All right. Captain Finity is in the chat, stopping by to visit, as is BAP2. Always appreciate both of you. Everybody watching, by the way, the link to this Kickstarter is right below the video. It's underneath the big square. You can click on it at any time and get in here and pledge on this. And I'm just going to scroll back into the top real quick. Okay, so we're still at 75.65. Next time I see that number, I want it to be different. I don't want it to be lower. Don't anybody go in there and refund anything. I want it to be higher. I've had that happen. So don't do that one. Let's look at what the possibilities are here for what you're backing. Of course, there is the pledge of that reward. You want the comic. Let's just, if you're going to send $10, send $10 and get the thing. So this is, you get your name in the thank you section. Mm-hmm. Is there a digital on this, or?
No digital for that one. The digital starts at 20.
Oh, okay. But there is a digital for the book. It's just, wasn't that one.
Yep. There it is right there, the setup. Yeah, that's the digital.
So this is, and you get your name in the thank you section, digital copy of the book, and it is 42 pages of story, or?
Yes. No, of story.
Okay.
Yep. Anything extra like concept art, it'll be extra pages, but 42 pages of a story, that will definitely happen.
Okay, so it could be a bigger book, but 42 pages is definitely story.
Yes, 100%.
That's a lot of reading.
Yes.
For 25, for only 25 more, or for only 5 more, I've only had this much beer. It's only from here. I just got home. So don't go saying that, folks. For $5 more, you get the hard copy and the digital copy. So, that seems a no-brainer. And certainly 117 backers can't be wrong. You've had a lot of people back on that.
Mm-hmm.
Then we started getting into the ones that have the cool stuff. And it looks like you're just building on each tier as they go down, or?
Yes. Yeah. So if you get the last tier, you get everything. Everything that comes before it, it comes with.
Okay, so at the golden butter. Okay, I'm going to ask, how did you name your tiers? Are these?
Yeah, these are cases from the video game NOIR, which came out in 2011. These are the name of those cases from that game.
Okay, which is just meant something to you, or?
Yeah. NOIR is like outside of the old Hollywood movies, NOIR, that game was very influential to me in writing this book, because it had such a meticulous way it went about casework, where it brought the audience into every little clue. You are also trying to figure out who is lying, and by looking at their tells, how nervous they are. What's interesting about Star Noir is that I actually took some of those cues, like someone avoiding eye contact or adding too much to their story, so that you, as the reader, before the detective set, you go, oh, that person is not telling the full story, because look how nervous they are. So it's another way to bring you into the case with these two detectives.
That sounds like fun. I have to try that one out. Captain Finney says that Ken Bruzenak elevated lettering to an art form. I would have to say that Todd Klein also falls into that category, just for, and the only reason I know Todd Klein's name is because, first of all, he did everything, but I mostly remember him for what he did on Sandman, when he would have different styles of lettering for different people, which is very much what's the case with this book, because when Ellis talks, it's in a completely different balloon style than Alan talks.
Yeah, there are the alien encounter. There are telepathy balloons for that scene.
at the quarter moon murders, you get the baseball cards and the postcard, as well as the digital, your name in the book and the physical.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, the red lipstick murder is where that 11 by 17 vintage poster gets thrown in. So this is everything here. For the $100, you get the the 3 baseball cards, the 2 postcards, the 11 by 17 poster, the book, the digital, your name, and a partridge in a pear tree. And
yeah, yeah, everything but the kitchen sink.
yeah. Do you have add-on capability on this, or is everything put into the tiers?
Everything's put into the tiers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, because some people like to mix and match. Like, well, I want the book and the poster. I don't care about the cards. So a lot of times they'll buy the book and then they'll add on the poster in the add-on sections.
Oh yeah, I don't think I have it set up that way. I think it's just just by the tiers.
Yeah. One thing I don't understand why Kickstarter or Indiegogo, for that matter, don't do this is when you pick a tier, there should be like a quantity box there, and you can say, "I'm backing it. Send me 2 of them. Send me 3 of them. Send me 4 of them."
Oh yeah, that would be helpful. Yeah, I agree.
Just so you don't have to. I mean, you can back it twice, but then it inflates the backer numbers, kind of.
Yeah.
Indiegogo doesn't. I think Indiegogo actually counts individual backer identities, but Kickstarter, I don't know for sure. Delivery, looking at April 2023. Any reason to think that might not make it, or you're on track?
No, that's actually a good date. We are very much hoping to break that. That's just sort of our hey, if we hit a snag, we have this to fall back on. But like I said before, we've moved through the pages that we've already been drawing so far very quickly. So yeah, that's just like a safety net and a backstop. But yeah, trying to really hoping to break that. So I have it earlier than that.
Now, you mentioned earlier that this is your second comic book.
Yeah.
Was your previous comic book also a crowdfunded effort?
Yeah, that book was called Reloader. It was a cyberpunk comic about a virtual reality bounty hunter. That was a few years ago that I had a Kickstarter for that. That was successful. And yeah, it was that was quite a learning experience, just from top to bottom, not just running a Kickstarter, but it was the first time I really worked with a serious art team. And I think a lot of the lessons I learned from both running that Kickstarter and working with the previous team, I've put into Star Noir. And I think that's why now we are a much more well-oiled machine for this book.
Yeah, because I was going to ask if can you name anything specifically that you did differently this time around than the first one?
Well, I mean, from the art side, I had to find people who were very much committed to this project and felt as passionate about it as I did. I think to no disrespect to artists, sometimes you have artists that have kind of one foot in the project and are just like, I'm here until we wrap this up, and then I'll just move on to some other stuff. But these guys, they feel just as strongly about this project as I do. Every time I send them a script that we're going to do some more pages, they get back to me straight away. They have stuff for me within the next day or two. So yeah, that looking for a more committed team is something I looked for. And then on the flip side, on doing a Kickstarter, I learned to be much more communicative with my backers. I kind of had this weird habit of, all right, so we raised the funds, we're going to go make the book, and I'm just going to go in the dark, and I'm just going to go make the book, and then when the book's done, I'll be back, and here's the book. But people want to hear from you in the process of while you're making it. So this time around, I've made it more of a weekly thing to check in with everybody, and I'll keep doing that as we make the book, showing them more pages and everything that we're doing. So they'll be much more involved in this process.
Yeah, one of the points that I bring up when I talk with how to run crowdfunders on different videos is that the updates are very, very important. And you should make one every week on the same day, even if there's nothing new to report. And if there's nothing new to report, you write down nothing new to report. Because if you do that 3 times in a row, you're going to be embarrassed to write it down, and you're going to make something happen so you have something new to write.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, every Friday. That's when we're doing our updates. We've been doing it since the campaign started, and we're not going to let up until this book is in your hands.
Excellent. I'm glad that the art team is dedicated the way that you've described to, because I've heard too many horror stories where, paid the artist up front, and now we're doing the crowdfund, and the artist has skipped town, or he's taking on a bunch of other commissions, and he's not getting work done, or he's just totally quit, skipped out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not the case here. Yeah, these guys, they feel very strongly. I mean, I'm over here trying to do a lot of promotion for the book, and they themselves are totally not asking them to do it at all. They do their own promotion for Star Noir as well, because they also feel so strongly about it.
Well, that like I said, that's good to hear, and you can tell in the art they're not phoning this in, so to speak. This is like it's right there in the 40s. I'm just now taking in the fact that there's so much detail in this office. A lot of comics, there'd be the desk, and there'd be the people standing there, which is going to be like background. This gives it a depth and a richness. I mean, it's wood doors. This is the 40s. This is
there was a lot of photos that I sent to the art team just to really capture the 1940s era, and any additional piece of detail that I could send their way, I did. I mean, with the 6th Street Bridge where the first murder takes place, that bridge in Los Angeles doesn't exist anymore. So I had to really start digging deep, looking for a myriad of different photos for them to be able to recreate that bridge, and even found a blueprint for that bridge from 1932. And I sent that to the artist, and the artist was able to work from the blueprint of that bridge to give you that 1940s version of the 6th Street Bridge.
Very cool. Is in the chat dropping in to say hi. Glad to see you are. Okay. There we go. I'm clicking on things and they're not showing up. They're showing up late. Mike's getting ready to start his show, by the way, at the top of the hour. So if you want to do the mic stand afterwards.
Cool.
Okay. Nothing's leaving.
Okay.
I can't hide anything. Mike, you're can't even scroll. There we go. Weird. Gingy Gingerton's in the house. Second things see is
What a name.
weird. Oh, my
Getting some interference.
so
Wait, that's not me, right? Okay, I'm okay. Oh, I'm getting some lag, RJ.
Yeah. This past weekend, so not even though I'm plugged. Wrap this up before it just goes off the rails completely.
That's all right.
Just a few minutes early. Do you have other stories planned other than the Adventures of Alan and Ellis?
Yes, I actually have quite a number of different stories that I'd like to put out. But it's kind of a sort of finish your breakfast situation. We have this book right in front of us. Once this is left the nest, as it were, then I can start moving over to the other stories that I have.
Okay. And are you going to? I can't ask you that. Further, there's these two mismatched detectives, but that would be telling. So we'll just have to wait till the story's over and then ask if there will be any more. So,
Yes, yeah, and I think there's room to tell more stories in this world for sure.
Excellent. Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of Alien Nation, the television series. And, that's a more modern, updated version of kind of what you're doing here, only with a lot more aliens and not very noir at all. Um, more show. Remind myself about that. So,
Ooh, the
close
technical
out.
difficulties is it's getting crazy.
Router. What problem is? And it's making me do a Wi-Fi connection instead of Ethernet connection. I'm plugged in,
Okay.
so it's not speed. And I'm going to have to call and tell them to fix their. At
There you go.
any rate, everybody in the chat, thank you so much for coming in. We don't have a show without you. And we would love to remind you once you get your questions on replay, the link below. Do click, you've got more days in there to make this happen. And while you were here, everybody, you just
Thank
hope you
you.
had a blast.